Hey there, welcome to the channel. My name's Greg. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this breakfast sausage. Look at that juice. Let's start on the apple onion breakfast sausage. It's going to be an all pork sausage, and I'm using a pork butt, which is from the shoulder, front shoulder of a pig. It's usually a pretty good fat content for a sausage. This one's looking a little bit lean. This is probably from the lower part. This is probably more of the picnic ham part. But I'm just cutting it into pieces that are going to fit into my grinder. This would actually be a good sausage with chicken. If you wanted to go that route, I would just use skin on chicken thighs if I was going to be making it a chicken sausage. Yeah, you know, I'm pretty sure this is the picnic ham, which is the lower part of the shoulder, which is a lot leaner. So I'll probably grab some fat. I want about 30% fat in my sausages, at least 25. All right, I think this is going to make it a good fat content. Winging it just a tiny bit here, but like I said, I'm going for about 30% fat content is what I want. Okay, I'm going to stick this into my freezer, let it firm up a bit before I grind it. Be right back. I'll be caramelizing these onions. I'm going to take some of them out while they're just sauteed. But when I caramelize onions, I like to cut them pole to pole, you know, top to bottom. And then I just kind of cut at an angle, go over the rainbow, as they say. And when you cut them this way, they tend to stay better. They tend to stay together and hold up to the long cooking that it takes to caramelize onions. I'm also not cutting them too thin, probably I'd say about 3/16 of an inch, somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4, be fine. Gonna put a little olive oil into my pan to start out. Then I'm gonna add some butter. If you use just butter, you're likely to brown the butter. Don't really want to do that here, just want to melt it. So my butter's melted, I'm gonna go in with my onions. Give that a quick little stir. Gonna add just a pinch of salt. That'll help draw out the moisture. Get these starting to cook. Damn it, got called away. Let some of these get a little burnt, which is not what I'm going for. So I'm gonna pull out some of these burnt pieces. I'm gonna take out just a few of these at the saute stage, which they're at right now. So I'm gonna put some in sauteed, turn the heat way down, and let these just caramelize for a while. About 45 minutes. These are pretty well caramelized. Still got a couple of pieces I missed, which unfortunately probably give a little bit of a bitter taste. Best to do this on as low a heat as possible. Like I said, I let it get away from me a little bit. I'll be removing these caramelized onions here. Then I'm just going to add them to my pan. My apples. I'll turn that up a tiny bit. I'm going to add just a small amount of water. Just want to soften these up a little bit. Help them soak up a little bit of that buttery oil that the onions are cooking in. And I'm just going to give that, I don't know, about 5 minutes. Not even that, probably. Just like 3 to 5 minutes. Just till they soften up a little bit. Not really trying to get any color on them. Just trying to get them to soak up that buttery, oily goodness. Really, after about, I'd say 2 to 3 minutes, that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm going to take these off. Now I'm going to put all these onions and apples into the refrigerator. Start cooling them off. Want them to be cold when it comes time to add them to the mixture. Going to get my spices together, starting with some salt, some black pepper. It's a breakfast sausage, so it's going to need some sage. A little bit of mustard powder, a little bit of red pepper flakes, just for a little bit of that love. There's my spices, and I am going to use a binder in this sausage. I'll be using non-fat dry milk powder, and this will just help hedge my bets on getting a nice, plump, juicy sausage. Don't always need a binder, but if you're new to sausage making, I highly recommend using one. And even if you're not new to making sausage, they're pretty helpful. I use binders quite often. Not always. Okay, there's my spices, my binder. I'm about ready to start grinding some meat. All right, oh, meat out of the freezer, been chilling. It's very firm. It's below freezing, 29 degrees. It's not frozen solid, but it's partially frozen. I'm not going to use my plunger. Just going to feed it at a rate it will take it. And it's good to mix the meat with the fat. Sometimes the fat will bind, so the meat helps push it through. Well, I'm not going to worry about pushing the last bit through right now, because now I'm going to grind this one twice. This is what I use the plunger for, because I don't want the grinder to start with a whole bunch of meat down there. And sometimes you do need the plunger to regrind meat. I'm going to take my apples, my sauteed onions, and my caramelized onions. And I'm going to put them up here and give it a quick little, not mix, but you know, mix it in so that it's kind of gets a little distributed, starts getting distributed. Now I'm just going to make a little ball, let that go through, and then I'll push this last little bit out here. Still 31 degrees, so that's plenty cold. It's good temperature to do my mixing. Let me just get it set up real quick. Go wash this off. I'll be right back. I always like to wear cotton liners under my gloves when I'm mixing by hand. Helps keep everything cold. My meat is 31 degrees, which is just perfect. Anything under 34 or 35 degrees is going to be great. I'm going to add my salt and spice mix. I'm going to add my binder. And I'm going to add some ice cold water. Now I'm just going to dig in and start mixing. Mixing is kind of a combination of kneading and squeezing and just flipping it all around. It'll start to come together into one mass pretty quickly here. You'll see that it starts to get these little strands. That's the myosin and actin protein starting to get extracted from the meat. As the proteins start to reach out and try to grab onto things, it starts to become pretty sticky, and eventually it'll start sticking to your hands. I'm not quite there yet. I want it to stick better than that. Now I'm getting there. Starting to lift up my bowl. A big piece of it will stick to my hand. If you look close, you can see the strands reaching out. One reason I like to mix by hand is I can really stop mixing at the right time. If you undermix, your sausage will be crumbly and dry and it won't stick together. If you overmix, it will be dense and kind of heavy. So that's one reason I like to do small batches and just mix it by hand. This is pretty much good to go, ready for stuffing, but I'm going to do one or two more things. I'm going to split these up into 1/3 to add maple syrup, 2/3 I'm going to add cheddar cheese. This would be good just as it is, but I'm going to Gourmet Woodsman it and go one more. I think maple syrup is going to go really good with this sausage. I'm not sure how much to add though. It's one of those rare times. I'm not going to give you weights. I'm going to go about a half tablespoon. This is about a half a kilo. So about 1 tablespoon per kilo. I think that's going to be the right amount. One of those rare times. Don't use weights, and I'm just doing it by eye. But I'm just going to mix that up. Make sure that syrup is well integrated. I'm going to stick that in the fridge till I'm ready to stuff it and do the next one. The bigger amount I saved is getting cheddar cheese. This is high temp cheese because I still have some, but if you check out my video, I made a jalapeno cheddar sausage and I compared using high temp and not high temp. And at the end of the day, if you don't have high temp cheese, it shouldn't hold you back from making a sausage with cheese in it. Okay, I think that's pretty well distributed. Move this camera around. I'm going to stuff this maple one first. It's not going to take very long. Very small amount. But anyway, yeah, let's stuff this one first. I'll be using sheep casings today. And these are 22-24, so these are really small. They're almost too small to really get 2 fingers in there to open them up. But what I like to do, I always lube up the horn with some water and then try to find the beginning of the casing. And if I can get some water in there, I like to do that. So I can get a finger in here. And then it's just a matter of slipping it over. Sheep casings are tough to work with. Got these soaking last night. Definitely like to soak my sheep casings for a good long time. And I add baking soda with sheep casings. Sometimes I add it with hog casings. It just certainly doesn't hurt. Kind of helps. It helps make them a little more slippery. Oh, I got some water in this time. I did manage to get my 2 fingers in there barely. Can you see that? Anyway, but sheep casings are hard to work with, so I add baking soda to my water, and that helps soften the casings, helps make them a little more slippery. So sometimes if you do get a knot, you can actually get it undone. Another thing I do, which I always do no matter what casing I'm using, but if you flush out the inside, it kind of stretches it out, which really, really helps with these little sheep casings. Hog casings are much easier to work with. Make sure it slides. We're good. These were all casing I had resalted. That's why I had a bunch of small ones here. I figure use them up first. I like to punch a hole in the end just in case there's air in there. Snip the tip. And let's stuff these. Don't want to get these too tight. Sheep casings are super delicate. Want to make sure that if you pinch it, it doesn't make it too tight and that it will stay pinched. If you can't pinch it like that, then you're going too tight. As long as you get close, you can always make it a little tighter by twisting it a little more when you link it. But if you're too tight, can't really do anything to fix that. So, however long you want it, give it a couple twists one direction, give it a pinch, twist the next one the other direction. Or if you're like me and you're afraid you're gonna lose track of which way you're going, you can go up one and just pinch it off. Don't do anything. Go up to the next one, pinch it off, just go the same direction. It's gonna go away from me. Instead of alternating, I'm just gonna skip to the next one, twist it one direction. If you feel like you need to make your sausage a little plumper, tighter than it is, give it an extra twist. I usually go 3 or 4 twists, but if it needs an extra one to get plump and tight, then that's what you do. That's also one advantage of doing the alternating. You can pay more attention to each one, but I lose track. It's no good for me. And just make a knot at the end. And that end one often takes a couple extra twists. Punch out any little air pockets I see. I like to give them a couple holes anyway. Helps that casing really tighten up to it. If you don't like punching holes, then don't. I'm gonna stick these on a rack, stick them on a tray, put that in my refrigerator while I do the rest of these. I got this filled up with the cheese version. You cannot poke a couple holes, start stuffing. Oh, geez, came to the end of that quicker than I realized. All right, link them up. This one there is a little loose, so I'll give that a few extra twists. I'm gonna do the rest of these, I'll be right back. Stick these in the refrigerator along with the other ones. Cook them up in the morning. Could actually cook them up right now. Could leave them in front of a fan for a half hour to kind of dry out the casings and importantly dry out these spaces in the middle. And you could eat them now because there's no curing salts in here. But overnight they'll just develop more flavor. That's what I'm gonna do. I am gonna cook up a patty right now out of what's left in here though. These have been in the fridge overnight, dried out. This is the one I added the maple syrup to. And the bigger batch is the one I added the cheddar cheese to. I personally like savory a little better than sweet. They're both good and both have their place, but just gonna cut them apart. It's these little pieces in between the sausages we really need to dry out when we're drying them out overnight. Because drying that out is what makes them stay tight when you snip them apart, so they don't leak juices. Gonna cook one of each of these up and give them a taste. See you in just a minute. The time has come to give these a taste. Let's try the cheese one first. Oh man, that juice come out. Oh man, that's nice looking. All right, how it looks is one thing, but tasty, tasty. It's really sweet from those caramelized onions. Apple onion combo is really good. And apple and cheddar cheese is kind of a thing too. It just works really well. All right, that's a great sausage. Let's try the maple syrup one. The juicy breakfast sausage. Let's give it a taste. You know, usually I'm more of a savory person than a sweet person, but honestly, these are both kind of sweet. And the maple one, surprisingly, it's not any sweeter than the other one. It just has some maple notes to it, but it doesn't really taste sweeter. I think most of the sweetness is coming out of the caramelized onions and some from the apples. And the apples that I used were really sweet red apples. Let's get one more of those juice shots. See, it's got a good texture. Casing's bound real well. Plenty juicy. That's a freaking awesome sausage. I thought I was gonna like the cheddar cheese one better because I love cheese and sausage, and I'm generally like savory more than I like sweet, but it's hard for me to pick a favorite here. They're both really, really good. This might be my best breakfast sausage yet, but I don't know which one I like better. Hey, if you like this content, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're still watching this video at this point, you should definitely be subscribed to my channel. Maybe hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my content. Whatever you do, make sure you're putting some love into the food you're making. Peace.